How do you recover from codependency? Let me tell you, codependency is one of the most stubborn issues that I encounter in my office day to day. It does not just go away overnight. It has to be explored in detail and in depth. Hello, I'm Dr. Brian Clemens. I'm a licensed mental health professional, and I am here to help you have the most healthy relationship you can have and be the most healthy person you can be in your relationships. If you're finding this information helpful, please click on the like and subscribe buttons. The information I'm about to share comes from Doctors Minerth and Meyer and Stephen Arterburn on their expertise regarding codependency. The first stage of recovery is you must begin to explore and discover what brought you to this place of codependency. Why are you the way you are? Examine traumas in your past, hurts from your past, other relationships that you've had where it felt like you were doing all the work, other relationships where you were with an angry person or an addicted person. But you must begin to explore and discover what it is that has brought you to this place. Write a timeline, write a history of your life, of the very difficult things that you've been through, the losses that you've had, including emotional losses. Maybe perhaps your mother or father left or they divorced. Is there any abandonment? Or did you feel like you're always trying to please your parents early on? Did it feel like growing up you were overly responsible at an early age and had to take care of your siblings and never received the nurturing that you needed in those developmental stages of life where your parents were putting into you, but instead you were caretaking others? The second stage of recovery is to specifically do a relationship inventory. Start with your mother and your father. Were your mother and father distant emotionally? Were they abusive? Was your father an addict or your mother an addict? What was your relationship like with your mother? Was she distant? Was she cold? Did she struggle with depression? Did she have a lot of her own issues and you had to take care of the house? Your relationship with your father, was he cold and distant? A lot of people felt like they were not good enough, that they could never measure up to the expectation that their folks had for them. Were there other relationships in your life or other people around you, coaches, teachers, that negatively impacted you in some way? Maybe it humiliated you. All of these things can connect to why you are codependent. Why is it that you're so focused on other people and pleasing them and avoiding their anger or in getting your identity from making everybody happy? Do an exploration of these relationships. The third stage of recovery is exploring your own addictions. You may not have overt addictions like drug or alcohol, or you may, but explore those addictions. Perhaps it's compulsive overspending, controlling others, trying to make everybody happy is addictive in and of itself. When somebody likes you, that can be very addictive. You're chasing after that sense of approval. Are you a perfectionist? Are you overly controlling in your home and overly clean? It's okay to be clean, but are you overly clean? In fact, I've seen thousands of people over the years with multiple addictions, and one of the most difficult addictions and the most unrecognized addictions is codependency. It's so acceptable, it's so covert and unrecognized that most people don't see it as an addiction in pleasing everybody around you, and an addiction to making everybody happy constantly and doing things for them. It's not wrong to do things for people, but codependency is an excessive focus on meeting everybody else's needs while you ignore your own. The fourth stage of recovery is to grieve your losses. You've likely grown up in a family environment where you have an empty love tank where your life was spent meeting everybody else's needs or being there for them, and you weren't put into as far as the nurturing, the guidance, the loving that you need. And so you've got to grieve these losses. Perhaps it's grieving the loss of adolescence, that you really never got to be an adolescent and just simply go to the prom. But you had to be responsible for everybody. You need to grieve the loss that your mother or father wasn't there perhaps in the way that you needed them to be. This grieving process is very important. You may consider going to therapy to grieve these losses, to examine the patterns, the unhealthy patterns that you've been exposed to. You may consider a therapy approach called EMDR. I do this in my practice, and it's very effective. It's very effective in helping people reprocess these traumatic memories, these difficult memories of life, and free you up to think better and learn healthier ways of doing things. You need to acquire new self-perceptions. When you're always there for everybody else, you lose something. And that is, what do I need? Who am I? What do I want? A good example is when you get on an airplane and they give you the spiel about the masks coming down if an emergency happens. And they say, when the masks come down, you need to put the mask on yourself first. Then you can help everybody else around you. The codependent doesn't do that. They're always helping everybody else around them while they suffer, while they lose oxygen, shrivel up, and die. So you must learn to put your own oxygen mask on. And what that means is exploring some of these dysfunctional thought patterns that you have about yourself and the world around you. These new experiences are going to include you being assertive and saying, this is what I need. This is what I want in a relationship. This is what I need from you. It means participating in the relationship in a way that is no longer controlling, through appeasement, through pleasing, through manipulation, but you are experiencing healthy. It also means having good boundaries. You must be able to say no. I think about the Nancy Reagan drug campaign in the 80s. She would say, just say no campaign. You've got to learn how to do just say no in your life with others. In fact, that's not selfish. That's just being a normal human being. You can say no if you can't do something. You are allowed to do that. If you're in a relationship that's dysfunctional, or that individual is an addict or a rageaholic or narcissistic, you must have boundaries for yourself, which means saying no to their dysfunction and yes to your healthy reaction to that dysfunction. So you must start living out a new life that's not codependent. You must start recovering by being reparented. And what that means is you start allowing people in your life to listen to you. You start allowing people, or you find relationships where they're going to listen to you. They're going to empathize with you. I mentioned earlier, you can go to therapy. And in that therapy process, the therapist isn't your parent, but in a sense, they're reparenting you because they're empathizing. They're trying to understand you. They're listening to you. You are the subject matter. You matter. You're very important. And when you were growing up, you may have missed that part. You may have been dismissed with your emotions, or, like we said earlier, overly responsible for things. So you must receive a type of reparenting from others, and then within yourself. Allow yourself to say no. Allow yourself to have these boundaries. Allow yourself to grow this healthy perspective of who you are. that you are intrinsically valuable. God doesn't make trash. You are intrinsically valuable, and nobody can take that from you, whether they like you or don't like you. That's not a good place to get your identity from. Relationship accountability. There are great groups out there. One such group is called Al-Anon, and Al-Anon was created for the family members of alcoholics and addicts. Al-Anon focuses on this codependent pattern. You can get accountability from these types of groups. You can talk about all of these themes and patterns in your life week to week. You can get a sponsor to help you be accountable as well. This accountability is crucial. A lot of people don't think of this as a big deal, but if you really want to break this pattern in your life, accountability is absolutely key. You've got to maintain your progress. You've got to watch out for extremes in your life. If you're a workaholic, you've got to say no to work. If you're unable to recover from your life and sit down and experience calmness, you've got to get habits where you're going to experience that recovery time. If you're a perfectionist, you need to start chilling out and practicing grace for those around you. That control around you isn't doing anybody any good. It's not helping you, and it's not helping your relationships. Maintaining and evaluating your progress regularly through more balance in your life, more assertiveness, more boundaries is absolutely crucial to you getting better. Thank you for listening to this video today. I hope it's helped. I want to say there's hope for you, but you have to take responsibility for what's going on in your life in this codependency area. If you're finding this video helpful, please write some comments below so we can discuss what your experience is. Please also click subscribe and like, and I look forward to seeing you again.